Well. The game certainly lived up to expectations, didn't it? I don't think there was a rugby fan across the world who wasn't enthralled by that game. Absolutely fantastic. I'm not in the habit of taking a lot of notes, but for this one I took like 10 pages. So I thought for the start of the video, I just break it down into simplistic terms. So France won, obviously. There were two red cards, justified. One yellow card, questionable. 369 substitutions. And Wayne Barnes finally completed the last chapter of his book, How to Make Friends and Influence People. So quite an eventful game, all in all. From the start, South Africa, I think, surprised everybody. Very smart tactical alteration in their game plan. They chipped to the wings to disrupt the French defensive line. The French wingers were coming in very narrow and cutting off any outside ball. So they chipped over. It didn't work out, but it's definitely made the French side like kind of readjust slightly and give then a little bit more space to the South African backline, which we haven't seen a lot of up until this game, which was kind of the most surprising thing. Turns out South Africa can actually play rugby, which is amazing. They were fantastic. They played all the rugby in this game and they looked really good. Unfortunately, they didn't get a win. I say unfortunately because I was really rooting for them at the end. I don't know particularly why, but I think it's more of the fact that they did actually play the rugby, and they actually tried to do something. They tried to attack. France's game plan was very static, let's say. They had everybody had a job and they knew what they had to do, and they did it reasonably well. They came out with the win, but South Africa seemed to be trying everything. So yeah, let's go back to the start. I have to say I was wrong about Paris being the home of French rugby in terms of support. Marseille had a great atmosphere. Of course, most of the teams in France are based in the south, so that would make sense actually. So it was a great atmosphere, but it was a little bit of you only sing when you're winning, right? Or when there was like a controversial refereeing call or something like that, and the crowd would start whistling. But yeah, it was a good atmosphere. Definitely an intense atmosphere for both teams to play in. So I predicted before Oliver and Pieter-Steph du Toit would have a big impact in the game. It turns out Pieter-Steph du Toit did. I don't know if I jinxed him or what, but he got sent off. Within like 10-15 minutes he was off, and I almost shed a tear. I was like, oh, really could feel his pain. He was like hiding his face, and he was like properly shamed by it. So I think it was a rush of blood to the head. I think the referee could have given him the benefit of the doubt that he was trying to clear out the ruck, but like as rugby, if you're a rugby player, you know that no, he wasn't. He was leading with his head. He wanted to clatter somebody. He wanted to hurt somebody. So I had no real kind of qualms with him being sent off. But I feel it could have, if the referee, for the sake of the game, he could have given a yellow. But yeah, no real question about that. And I think Steph du Toit knew it as well. So early handling errors from both teams. I don't know if the ball was slippery or it had been raining or something, but there was a lot of balls spilled in the opening exchanges of the match. Willemse, he had a lot of criticism after his performance against Ireland last week, and he got off to a pretty good start. He made some great tackle actually, and then from that tackle, he'd go back in the line. They passed the ball to him, and he absolutely pinged the clearance kick, and it went like centimeters. And you thought, okay, he's going to be all right this match. You know, he didn't have many nerves or anything. So good to see Willemse actually get off to a good start, because everyone, I think, was worried about him and how he was going to do. So smart tactical play from South Africa. I really think they surprised the French by putting the ball through their hands. Like France tends to kick deep and let the opposition run back at them. Like Sean Edwards is their defensive coach, so they tend to build their attacking strategy around their defense rather than their attack, except in broken play, which is another story. But South Africa refused to kick the ball back to them, and they just ran it back every single time. I don't think there was a return kick the entire game. So very, very smart tactical choices from the South African team, I think. And you got to credit the coaches with that. I don't know if Razi was involved, but definitely worked well. And you could see France were a little bit shell-shocked. They didn't really know what to do after that. They were like, oh, South Africa are playing against us. You know, they passing the ball out wide, they returning kicks, they're attacking our defensive line. So they were a little bit lost for words, lost for answers in that department. Then after Peter Steph du Toit got sent off, I think that really galvanized the South African team. I don't know if it's best how friendly they are, because they're professional rugby players these days, so it's more of a kind of work acquaintance, but they really seem to sting the South Africans a little bit. And Eben Etzebeth and Kolisi, they really ramped up their game, and both of them were absolutely fantastic throughout the game. Etzebeth has been, really in real good form, but today he was the giant that he is physically and in stature. He was a giant on the field as well. And Kolisi as well, he was did a captain's role and really led from the front. So I was really pleased to see the way the South African team responded to the sending off. South Africa, again, I mentioned rolling mauls, and I think South Africa did really use a rolling maul well, and that's what they used for their first try, and it was Kolisi, the invisible man. He was, nobody saw that he had the ball, and the cameraman, I think, kind of was like, whoa, where did this guy come from? So he turned off his invisibility and jumped over from for the try. And South Africa were back in the game, after going behind early on. The wingers for South Africa were also great. Is it DLND, I think, and Cheslin Colby they were both fantastic, to be honest. I was really disappointed, and I think Cheslin was as well, when he went off after the Dupont red card, because he landed on his neck. He had to go off for a head scan, whatever it is that they do in the back there. But I think it was hard on him for him to stay off. I think he was all right, and it's a question whether the player has the choice to proceed or not. It seems like they don't. If they have a knock on the head, then, and the doctor says no, there's a slight chance that you have some kind of a concussion or some kind of head injury, then you have to stay off. So I think that was really unfortunate for him, because he was playing a blinding game. I noted down, like, he bumps off the number 6 at one point, absolutely bumps him off in midfield, and you could see South Africa were like, yeah, let's go, So, like, those little moments of magic from him, I think South Africa missed in the dying moments of the game. The bomb squad came off, Christoph Marx and Cox, and actually the bomb squad has been hit and miss, I think. But this time when they came on, I was like, oh, here we go. Like Marks had come on for a brief cameo earlier, but they started like ferociously, and they were carrying the ball quite a lot as well. It was the injection of legs into the game at that point was quite significant. They had a lot of carries, the three of them. So in the end, though, it didn't really. They kind of ran out of steam. They're big guys, you know what I mean. But they did their job pretty well. There was one scrum penalty for wheeling the scrum, I think it was late on, which was what I want to say, but which was unjustified. Let's use that word. The kicking, Damien Willemse, he only took one kick, and he absolutely pinged it. And the other kickers were Colby, Cheslin Colby, and Faf de Klerk. And they absolutely nailed every single kick. It was unbelievable. And that team spirit, I think, was why I was rooting for South Africa, because they were like, okay, our number 10 is not on form kicking. So I tell you what we'll do. We'll spread the kicking duties throughout the team. And they all stepped up and they did an amazing job. Faf nailed the conversion for the second try. And South Africa were in the lead. France were getting absolutely smashed after that in the tackles, and it looked like there was no way back from them. And I really wanted South Africa to win at that point, heart over head as usual with me. But France stuck to their game plan, and they played they played pretty decent rugby in the last quarter of the game. But up until that point, it'd been all South Africa. Like Willie Leroux was absolutely fired up, and perhaps a little bit too much, chops into the ref and things like that. But they played all the rugby, and they looked great, and they were a man down for a majority of the game. But it was equalised with Dupont sending off. But France kind of got their stuff together in the last quarter, put some good phases together, and then went over for a try. Wayne Barnes, he didn't call for the TMO. He awarded the try as he saw it. Not sure if it was a second movement, double movement or not. I guess we'll have to wait and see and go back and have a look at it. But it felt unjustified, to be honest. And then his comms went down, and he's like, "Oh, I can't communicate with my TMO guys." So, and then Ramos missed the kick because he put him off so much. He made him wait so long. And it says a lot that Wayne Barnes had the influence to actually put Ramos off his kicking, because he was impeccable up until that point and afterwards too. So a fantastic game, a fantastic spectacle, and I think that it bodes well for South Africa that they can actually change their game plan to such an extent and execute it as well. They didn't get a result on the day for various reasons, but I think South Africa really showed the absolutely phenomenal rugby playing side, and that's what we want to see from them. Of course, change is going to come slowly in South Africa. I mean, they have that big pack, and the rolling ball was really did work well for them today. And nobody's saying get rid of that, but when you've got the players playing like they did today, it's what you want to see week in, week out from them. And I think they're going to be a real threat in the World Cup after that performance. France, very scientific, if you like, very clinical in terms of executing the game plan, but didn't show much apart from that. Antamac was very quiet. Dupont played okay until he got sent off. A little bit unlucky with that again, same as du Toit. Maybe more so than Pieter-Steph du Toit, because I think it was an accident, to be honest. But France get the win. Well played to South Africa, though. Absolutely well played. And I'm going to be following South Africa now, and they're going to be one of my favourites going into the World Cup after that performance. Even though it was a losing performance, surprisingly, but it showed that they're able to play that level of rugby, a man down for a large portion of the game. I mean, and the passion that they put into the game, I think, was exemplary. So yeah, that's all I got for you. If you made it this far, like and subscribe, as everybody says. And yeah, cheers. Bye.